Hello, I'm Herm Gailey here with 11-month-old Buddy. It is one of the first warm days in the spring, and it seemed an opportune time to introduce him to being hosed off, something that he'll have done throughout his life, but has never had done before. So just to kind of go through the procedure that we're going to use here, first of all, I have him attached to this tie ring. So I've got a 20-foot rope, and it's important to have a long enough rope, and this is marginal. You could have a longer one if you wanted. And I like these tie rings because if he pulls back, as you can see, it will pull through pretty easily. So I'm not going to do anything to lock that down at all, or even to really inhibit it. I'm just going to use that as a sort of a pivot point, and I'm going to play out the end of the rope and the length of the rope as I need to, kind of like I was trying to catch a big yellow fish. Now, this colt has been tied. He's familiar with tying. He's not perfect. If I do this right and he reacts the way I think he will, this will both build his reliability being tied and help him to get acclimated to being washed. On the other hand, many times I get my horse acquainted with being hosed just holding him. There's another video up. We'll put we'll pin that in the comments to this video where I do that process with a horse on the end of a lead rope. And that is absolutely a good way and maybe a preferable way to do it. But I just wanted to do this partly because I think it would be good for him to have this stimulus while he is tied or at least restrained. He doesn't look too troubled right now. And I also wanted to show an alternative, which is using one of these tie rings, but you want to be sure you've got a long enough rope that you can play it out, and don't try to restrain them too much. The other thing that I have is a hose with one of these multi-function nozzles on it. So it will give you a whole variety of different sprays at a different flow rate. If you just had the old style, go at it either 100% or 0%, that might be a little shocking to your horse. I'm also going to give him just a trifle bit more room there, because I really don't want him to feel like he's too restrained. Yeah, maybe I gave him too much. So I'm just going to light this up, but fairly modestly. If he wants to look at it, I'll let him do that. I mean, horses tend to like that feeling against their nose, but I'm going to introduce it to the rest of his body as well. And that's the first that he's had running water on him. Now, one thing that this does is it gives you a little bit of an ability or an opportunity to analyze your horse, to see how he's going to behave. And when he stops his feet and relaxes a little bit, I'll take the hose away. It's interesting that his tendency is to come toward me. That tells me and confirms for me really the fact that this colt's pretty confident. He kind of likes people, but he might climb on top of you for comfort, and that would be far more comfortable for him than for me. And along with the warmer weather, we're getting the first of our bugs for the year. So I'm just gonna, now if I thought he was gonna jump through me, I would not be standing where I'm standing. Probably the better practice is not to let your rope get down on the ground there. Get yourself jammed up if you're not careful. Now, what I don't like about this is he can shift his hind end over there against the fence, and then he's a little bit trapped. I'm going to let him sort that out. And there, that's the important thing there. right there is an important part of this. He relaxed a bit, so I took the spray away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the other side of him here. That'll move his back end around. And I'm just going to sort of play that water over him. Take it over to that side, let him shift his backside around. But what he's not doing, he shows no signs at all of panic. I wanted to see how he'd handle being tied. So I'm now going to sort of shift, and I'm going to just, having given him a test with being tied, I'm just going to get a little shorter rope, snap it on his halter, and hose him a little bit without that restraint. It gives me a little better feel for how he's going to be when I hold him and do this. And besides that, gives me just the opportunity to adjust his body position better than when he's there against the fence. So what he may do when I begin to spray him is he may sort of boil around in a circle, and I'm just going to endeavor to keep the hose on him until he stops moving. Now, you might say, is he going to get tangled up in the hose? Are you worried about that? No, I'm more worried if he doesn't, because this is his opportunity to learn how things work. So I'm not going to hold him. I'm not going to tell him not to move. I'm going to let him wiggle around there as much as he may need. And when he stops, with an assist from the hose itself, I take the hose away. I probably was a little premature that last time. He hadn't really stopped. Now, if he wants to investigate that, that is absolutely fine. That's just lovely. Curiosity is a huge antidote to fear. It really is good when a horse is inquisitive enough. Now, the back end is a little higher degree of difficulty because you can't really hold that, so you just got to count on him to stop moving. And when you stop moving, when he stops moving, you stop aggravating him with the water. Now this side, he may be a little bit more, to use Pennsylvania Dutch, a little bit more shushly. He may rooch around a little more. It's his right side. He's been handled less on this side. And at this stage, I'm finding myself getting only marginally less wet than he is. So it gets worse before it gets better. And then it gets better. Now, I took that away just as soon as I felt like he was gonna stop, because I didn't want to keep it on him to where I took that stop out of it. I'll move him over here just a tad, and he'll wiggle around again. But for how long? Maybe a little less this time. There you go. Giving the cameraman a workout. She's just far enough away that she's not getting sprayed, I hope. Or maybe I don't hope. There we go. We're making progress. And we just keep spraying him until he just sort of gives it up. Just sort of gives it up. There we go. There we go. There we go. Whoa, buddy. And we're just gonna let him wiggle till he doesn't. There. There we go. Now what have I not done? I have not restrained him. But what he's learning is a bit of self-restraint. Great opportunity to sack out the hind legs without getting your head kicked off. And he's back to being curious. And that's when we will suspend the lesson, because he's right back to a good place. He's stepping through the hose. I just don't care. I just don't care. That's quite all right. So that's a first lesson. We did it first tied just to see how he'd react. And then we did it when he had no restraint at all. Because to the extent I was holding him, it was fingertip pressure. If you have your horse running through you and dragging you around, give it up. Go work on getting your horse not doing that before you introduce the idea of hosing him off. Because this colt has learned not to run through the halter and drag me around, and he's pretty good about it. I didn't restrain him. That was the trade-off. He learned to restrain himself. That was the reward. I enjoyed doing it. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Come back and see us again.